Glass explodes across the restaurant as the Korean Mafia Boss grabs Tessa's wrist, freezing when he spots the pendant around her neck. His eyes lock on the baby's photo. The same eyes, the same scar above the brow. His son. The child he never knew existed dangles from the neck of a waitress covered in blood and shattered crystal, as rival gangsters close in from every side. Before we dive into this story, subscribe and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Whose baby is on that chain? The question silenced an entire room. But perhaps I should start with how it happened. When a silver pendant caught the light and exposed a secret hidden for months. The serving tray drops first, then the glass. Wine and crystal scatter across the polished floor of Haesong, Los Angeles' most exclusive Korean-American restaurant. And Tessa Morrow, 24, still in her uniform, stands unflinching amid the wreckage. The restaurant falls deadly quiet. She'd been running between tables since noon. A small apartment waited across town. Rent past due, babysitter overtime ticking up by the hour, and her infant son crying for a mother who worked too much but had no choice. 20 minutes earlier, a customer in a tailored suit had cornered her by the kitchen. He slid his hand up her arm, offered to solve all her problems. Tessa had twisted his wrist until he gasped. Some survival instincts you never forget. Now, as rival gang members burst through the doors, she finds herself caught in crossfire. A serving tray becomes a shield. Her body moves with precision that waitresses shouldn't possess. Glass explodes around her as gunfire erupts. Heavy footsteps approach through smoke and chaos. A voice cuts through the mayhem, calm and cold. "Lower your weapons." Hands grip her shoulders, spinning her around. Tessa looks up into eyes she hoped never to see again. Koo-hyo, the Shadow King of Koreatown's underworld. As he pulls her behind him for protection, her necklace catches on his cufflink. The chain breaks. A small pendant slides across the floor, landing beneath the chandelier light. A baby's face, no more than 6 months old, with dark eyes and a small scar near his brow. Koo-hyo retrieves it slowly. His expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes does. Something only Tessa recognizes because she's seen it before. The night she left him without saying goodbye. Sometimes recognition comes silently. It settles in the bones before the mind can process what it means. Leather seats, bulletproof glass. Tessa finds herself in the back of a black sedan, a jacket draped over her bloodied uniform. City lights streak past in blurs of neon. The restaurant is being handled. His voice comes from beside her, controlled as ever. "You're safe." She sits up straight, eyes forward. The pendant dangles from Koo-hyo's fingers, the baby's face catching light with each turn. "That's mine." She reaches for it. He holds it just beyond her grasp, not threatening, just refusing to yield. "Who is he?" Tessa swallows hard. "No one you need to worry about." "He has my scar." Koo-hyo's voice drops lower. "The one above my eye. The one you used to trace with your finger." She looks away. Coincidence. Koo-hyo studies her face for a long moment, then places the pendant in her palm, his fingers lingering against hers. 2 years ago, you vanished. The same night, I survived an assassination attempt. The car slows outside a high-rise building of steel and shadow, far from her neighborhood. "This isn't where I live," she says. "No, my headquarters. You need protection, not that apartment with paper-thin walls." He exits the car, extends his hand. "No one will touch you here." She shouldn't follow him. Everyone in Los Angeles whispers about Koo-hyo, about the man who rose to power through calculated violence and unwavering loyalty. About bodies that disappear and territories that fall. But his hand is steady, and something in those eyes, recognition, hurt, something unspoken, makes her take it. His palm is warm against hers. "Thank you," she whispers. He doesn't let go immediately. "Eventually, you'll tell me why you're wearing our child around your neck." As they walk toward the building, he makes a brief call. Full security detail. The woman and any child associated with her. Find everything. Tessa doesn't hear, But the hunt has already begun. Sirens wail in the distance. Shattered glass crunches beneath expensive shoes as Kuhyo's men secure the perimeter. The restaurant's emergency lights cast everything in harsh red shadows, transforming spilled wine into pools of blood. Tessa presses herself against the wall of the staff corridor, one hand clutching her pendant, the other covering her mouth to stifle her breathing. The chain dangles broken between her fingers. Her uniform reeks of wine and fear. "Search every room," Kuhyo's voice carries from the main dining area. "Find her." She slides down until she's crouching, mind racing through escape routes. The back door leads to an alley. From there, 4 blocks to the bus stop, 20 minutes to her apartment. To Eli, she needs to run before... The storage room door opens. Light spills across her hiding place. "There you are." Kuhyo stands silhouetted in the doorway, his suit immaculate despite the chaos he just walked through. He steps inside and closes the door, trapping them in darkness broken only by the red exit sign above. "Stay away from me." Her voice is steadier than she feels. "That would be difficult," he says, "considering you're wearing my child around your neck." Tessa rises to her feet, back still pressed against the wall. "It's not what you think." "No?" He moves closer, each step deliberate. "Then tell me why you have a photograph of a child with my family's birthmark." "I found it." The lie sounds hollow even to her. "The pendant. I bought it at a market." His laugh is soft, dangerous. "You were always a terrible liar, Tessa." The sound of her name in his mouth after so long makes her flinch. "You recognize me." "It's not a question. I never forgot you." He stops just short of touching her. "Not after Busan." The word unlocks memories she's tried desperately to bury. Salt air, cherry blossoms. A small cafe overlooking the harbor where she'd worked part-time during her exchange program. The tall, quiet man who ordered the same coffee each morning, who spoke perfect English with her when the other customers switched to rapid Korean she couldn't follow. He hadn't told her his name then, hadn't mentioned what he did, just asked questions about America, about her studies, about why she'd chosen South Korea for her semester abroad. "You lied to me," she whispers. "I protected you from the truth," he corrects, "until I couldn't anymore." One night, that's all they'd had. One night when conversation had turned to something deeper, when the cafe had closed and he'd walked her along the harbor, when rain had caught them, and his apartment had been closer than her dormitory. One night before the morning erupted in gunfire, before she'd woken to shouting, to Kuhyo pushing her into a bathroom, telling her to lock the door and not come out, before she'd heard what sounded like a war outside the door, and then silence, before she'd finally emerged to find blood on the floors and Kuhyo nowhere to be found. "I thought you were dead," she says. "Many people did. That was the point." His fingers touch her cheek, featherlight. "I spent 3 months recovering from my injuries. By then, you'd vanished." The storage room suddenly feels too small, too intimate. The emergency light casts half his face in crimson, the other half in shadow. "I have to go," she says. "To your son." His gaze drops to the pendant still clutched in her hand. "Our son." Tessa shakes her head. "You don't know that." "I do, because no one else has this." He touches the space above his right eyebrow, where the faint mark cuts through dark hair. "A hereditary birthmark that appears in every firstborn male of my bloodline for 9 generations. Footsteps approach outside, a knock at the door. "Sir, police are 5 minutes out," a voice calls. "Handle it, Min-jae," Kuhyo responds, never taking his eyes off Tessa. "Make sure they understand this was just a private dispute." "Yes, sir." Footsteps retreat. Kuhyo steps back, giving her space. "You should go home," to him. Something in his tone makes her pause. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing. Tonight." He straightens his cuffs. "But I want you to understand something, Tessa. If that child is mine, there is nothing in this world that will keep me from knowing him." He opens the door, gesturing for her to exit. "My driver will take you home. I don't need, it wasn't a suggestion. 40 minutes later, Tessa unlocks the door to her apartment, heart still pounding. Mrs. Chen meets her in the hallway, concern etched across her elderly face. You're late, dear. Everything okay? Tessa forces a smile. Just a busy night. Thank you for watching him. Mrs. Chen pats her arm. He's an angel, sleeping like a little prince. After the babysitter leaves, Tessa creeps into the bedroom, little more than a closet with a crib and a mattress on the floor. Eli sleeps peacefully, one tiny hand curled near his face, the birthmark above his eye visible even in the dim light. She sinks onto her mattress, the broken pendant heavy in her palm. 2 years of running, of hiding, of building a life from nothing, all undone in a single moment of recognition. Across the city, in a high-rise overlooking the lights of Koreatown, Koo-hyo stands at his window. Min-jae waits silently by the door. Find everything about her, Koo-hyo says without turning. Where she lives, the child's birth certificate, medical records, everything. Yes, sir. When he's alone again, Koo-hyo opens his hand. A single strand of the broken chain remains, caught on his cufflink during their confrontation. If that child is mine, he whispers to the empty room, then nothing will stop me from finding him. Morning light filters through tinted windows as Min-jae places a thin file on the desk. Koo-hyo sits motionless, his expression unreadable. This is everything? He asks, voice dangerously quiet. Min-jae bows slightly. She's been careful, sir, very careful. Koo-hyo opens the file. The woman he knew as Tessa Morrow barely exists on paper. Social security number registered only 18 months ago. No credit cards. 3 different addresses in the past year. Employment history consisting of cash-only positions. Waitressing, night cleaning, delivery services. Birth certificate for the child? Eli Morrow, 6 months old. Father listed as unknown. Min-jae hesitates. Sir, if I may speak freely? Koo-hyo nods once, still studying the sparse documentation. If this child is yours, it presents complications. Min-jae chooses his words with precision. The Park Syndicate would see him as leverage. The Chinese would view him as a weakness to exploit. Your concern is noted. Koo-hyo closes the file. Continue surveillance. I want detailed reports on her daily routine. And the child, sir? Something flickers in Koo-hyo's eyes. From a distance only, no direct contact. The next morning finds Koo-hyo in an unmarked car across from Tessa's apartment building. The neighborhood is far from the luxury he inhabits. Dingy storefronts with security grates, overflowing trash bins, faded laundromats. At 6:42 a.m., she emerges. She looks different in daylight. Hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing worn jeans and a faded sweatshirt. A baby carrier strapped to her chest holds a small bundle. Eli, facing inward, only the back of his dark-haired head visible. Koo-hyo watches as she walks 3 blocks to a daycare center. Through his window, he observes a tenderness he's never witnessed in his world. How she kisses the baby's forehead before handing him to the caretaker. How she lingers at the doorway to wave one last time. 4 days pass in similar fashion. Reports pile on his desk, photographs of moments stolen from a life he didn't know existed. Tessa at the grocery store, counting coins for baby formula. Tessa at the park, lifting Eli to touch leaves on a low-hanging branch. Tessa at the laundromat, reading to the boy while clothes tumble in aging machines. On the 5th day, his private doctor delivers an envelope. The results are conclusive, she says. 99.9% match. He's your son. Alone in his office, Koo-hyo removes the most recent surveillance photo. Eli faces the camera this time, caught mid-laugh, his tiny hands raised toward falling autumn leaves. The birthmark above his eye, the mark carried by firstborn Koo-men for 9 generations, clearly visible. The feared leader of Los Angeles' most powerful Korean syndicate traces the outline of his son's face with a trembling finger. Something wet falls onto the photograph. He touches his cheek, surprised to find tears. Meanwhile, across the city, Tessa closes her apartment blinds. The same car has been parked outside for days. Different drivers, but always the same black sedan. She's noticed men following her to work, to the grocery store, to Eli's daycare. Her hands shake as she pulls a duffel bag from under her bed. Emergency cash. 2 sets of clothes for Eli. His medications. The forged passport she'd hoped never to use again. A knock at the door freezes her in place. Peering through the peephole, she sees him. Koo-hyo stands in the hallway of her run-down apartment building, looking as out of place as a wolf in a henhouse. No bodyguards, no visible weapons. Just him, waiting. She opens the door a crack, chain still in place. "How did you find me?" "You know how." His eyes move past her to the duffel on the bed. "Running again? Wouldn't you, if you were being stalked?" "I was ensuring your safety, not stalking you." Tessa laughs bitterly. "Is that what you call having men follow me everywhere? Having someone watch me through my windows while I feed my son?" "Our son," he corrects quietly. She stiffens. "You don't know that." "I do." He holds up a folded paper. "DNA doesn't lie, Tessa. Eli is my son." "You took his DNA?" Her voice rises in horror. "How dare you?" "A pacifier from the daycare playground." Nothing invasive. "That doesn't make it right." She tries to close the door, but his palm prevents it. "I have a right to know my child," he says, an edge entering his voice. "You lost that right when you lied about who you were." Tessa's words tremble with anger. "When you pulled me into your world without warning. Do you know what happened after I escaped Busan? The men who came looking for anyone connected to you? I've spent 2 years running because loving you for one night nearly got me killed." Something flashes in his eyes. Pain, perhaps. "I never meant for you to be caught in that war. But I was. And now Eli exists, and I won't let your world touch him. He's my blood," Koo-hyo insists. "My firstborn son. He's an innocent baby who deserves better than to be a gangster's heir." Their voices have risen, the argument intensifying when a small sound interrupts them. A tiny yawn from the apartment's interior. "Mommy?" Tessa turns, heart sinking. Eli stands in the bedroom doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes with tiny fists. His dark hair sticks up at odd angles, pajamas rumpled from his nap. Koo-hyo goes completely still, seeing his son fully for the first time. The little boy toddles forward, curious eyes, so like his father's, moving from his mother to the stranger at the door. "Mommy," Eli says again, more curious than afraid. "Who's that man?" "5 minutes," Tessa says, standing rigid in the doorway. "Then you leave." Koo-hyo nods once, understanding the weight of what she's offering. She steps aside, letting him into the small apartment. The space is clean, but sparse. Mismatched furniture, walls patched with different colored paint, a makeshift playpen created from cushions and wooden chairs. Signs of a life built from necessity, not choice. Eli sits in the center of the living room floor, stacking plastic blocks with intense concentration. He glances up when Koo-hyo enters, curious rather than afraid. "This is a friend," Tessa explains, the word clearly difficult for her. "He wanted to meet you." Koo-hyo crouches down, maintaining distance. His movements are measured, gentler than Tessa has ever seen from the man who commands fear with a glance. "Hello, Eli," he says softly. The boy studies him with familiar dark eyes. After a moment of consideration, Eli picks up a blue block and extends it toward Koo-hyo. "Block," Eli says simply. Something shifts in Koo-hyo's face, a softening around the eyes, a vulnerability Tessa never imagined possible. He accepts the offering with reverence, as though receiving a priceless gift rather than a plastic toy. "Thank you," he says, voice barely steady. They build a small tower together, Eli giggling when it topples. For 5 precious minutes, the feared leader of Koreatown's underworld is just a man playing with his son. When Tessa clears her throat, signaling time's end, Koo-hyo rises without argument. At the door, he pauses. I can protect you both, he says quietly. Let me try. 3 days later, he returns with a teddy bear for Eli and a proposal for Tessa. Security cameras, reinforced locks, a panic button connected directly to his men. I won't move into your building, he promises. I won't disturb your routine, but let me make you safer. Tessa agrees to the cameras only. A compromise. His visits become a tentative pattern over the next 2 weeks. Always brief, always under her watchful eye. Sometimes they speak of the past, the truth of who he was in Busan, the massacre that separated them, how she discovered her pregnancy while hiding in Japan. More often, they sit in uneasy silence, watching Eli play. He has your focus, she admits one evening, the way you concentrate on one thing completely. Koo-hyo nods, something like pride warming his typically cold expression. But he has your smile. Across town, in the private back room of Koo-hyo's club, Min-jae checks his surroundings before making a call. The boss has been distracted lately, he says into the phone, disappearing for hours without security. I believe there's something you should know. The next day, Koo-hyo studies security footage in his office. His instincts, honed through years of surviving betrayal, sense something wrong within his organization. Financial records moved, schedules altered, someone is creating blind spots. His phone rings. Tessa's number. His heart rate quickens. She never calls. Something's not right, she says immediately, voice low. There's a car that's passed by 3 times. Different from your men. Take Eli and go to the bathroom, he instructs calmly. Lock the door. I'm sending people now. He's already moving, signaling his driver as he rushes from the building. How long ago did you notice the car? Maybe 20 minutes? Koo-hyo, I'm scared. Stay on the line with me. He checks his watch. My men will be there in 4 minutes. I'm 8 minutes behind them. A crash echoes through the phone. They're inside, she whispers. The fire escape. The line goes dead. Koo-hyo's car tears through traffic, weaving between lanes with dangerous precision. When they screech to a halt outside Tessa's building, 2 of his men are already securing the perimeter. Sir, the apartment was empty when we arrived, one reports. Signs of forced entry. The bathroom window leading to the fire escape is open. Koo-hyo pushes past them, taking the stairs 3 at a time. The door to Tessa's apartment hangs broken on its hinges. Inside, furniture is overturned, drawers emptied onto the floor. In the bathroom, the window gapes open to the rusty fire escape. A smear of blood marks the windowsill. His heart stops when he sees the teddy bear, the one he brought for Eli, dropped beside the window, one button eye hanging loose. And Koo-hyo picks it up carefully, thumbing away a droplet of blood from the synthetic fur. Sir, Min-jae appears in the doorway, expression professionally concerned. We found tire tracks in the alley. Looks like they had a vehicle waiting. Koo-hyo's eyes narrow, catching something in his lieutenant's tone. A hollow note where worry should be. How did they find them? He asks, softly, dangerously. Who knew about this place? Only those you trusted, sir. Min-jae's hand drifts subtly toward his concealed weapon. Perhaps there's a leak within your inner circle. Koo-hyo turns the teddy bear in his hands, his expression shifting to something that would make even his most hardened enemies step back. When he speaks, frost coats every word. Call everyone. Full council meeting in 1 hour. He places the bear carefully on the bathroom sink. Whoever touched them will die screaming. As Min-jae leaves to make the calls, the ghost of a satisfied smile crosses his face, hidden from his boss's view. Blood trickles from the cut on Tessa's forehead, mixing with rain as she crouches behind stacked shipping containers. The warehouse looms ahead, its windows glowing amber against the night sky. 2 armed guards patrol the entrance, their silhouettes stark against floodlights. Somewhere inside, Eli waits. Her son, her heart. 12 hours since the abduction. 8 since she escaped her captors by leaping from their moving vehicle. 3 since she tracked them to this isolated industrial complex by the harbor. She touches the pendant around her neck, the chain now repaired. The baby's face gives her focus. They'd expect Koo-hyo to come with an army. They wouldn't expect a desperate mother with nothing left to lose. The rain provides cover as she moves between shadows. Her waitress uniform is gone, replaced with dark clothes stolen from a donation bin. The knife strapped to her ankle was taken from a food truck while its owner wasn't looking. One guard steps away to light a cigarette. The other checks his phone. Tessa slides through their blind spot to a service door. Locked, but with hinges corroded by sea air and neglect. She removes a bobby pin from her hair, working it into the ancient lock. Skills she never wanted to remember resurface like muscle memory. Before Busan, before Koo-hyo, before Eli, there had been another life, one that taught her how to survive. The lock gives with a soft click. Inside, the warehouse stretches vast and shadowy. Wooden crates form a labyrinth of corridors, ceiling high and maze-like. Voices echo from deeper within, men laughing, someone shouting orders. Then, a sound that stops her heart, a child's cry, quickly muffled. Tessa follows the sound, moving silently between stacks of contraband. She passes crates marked with Chinese characters, others stamped with warning symbols. The rival gang, the Tigers, deals in everything from weapons to human cargo. A guard rounds the corner, nearly colliding with her. His surprise buys her precious seconds. Before he can shout, Tessa drives her palm upward, crushing his nose. As he staggers, she hooks her foot behind his knee, bringing him down. The knife finds his throat, silencing him permanently. She takes his gun, checking the clip with practiced ease. 6 bullets. She'll need to make them count. Deeper into the warehouse, voices grow louder. Through gaps between crates, she glimpses a cleared area where men gather around a makeshift table. Maps and weapons scatter its surface. And there, in a portable playpen tucked against the wall, sits Eli. His face is tear-stained but unharmed. A woman in a leather jacket watches him with bored indifference. The boss wants hourly photos sent to Koo-hyo, one man says. Make sure the kid looks scared but not injured. For now, another adds, laughing. Once we get the territory agreement signed, the brat becomes expendable. Rage pulses behind Tessa's eyes. She counts 8 men, all armed. The woman with Eli makes 9. Impossible odds. She needs a distraction. Near the loading bay, fuel drums stand in neat rows. Tessa removes her belt, wrapping one end around a brick and the other around the trigger of the stolen gun. She positions it carefully, aiming at the nearest drum, then retreats to the shadows. When she pulls the belt free, the gun fires. Gasoline erupts in a geyser of flame. Chaos follows. Men shout, rushing toward the fire. The woman grabs Eli, dragging him towards a side exit. Tessa intercepts them in a darkened corridor. The woman reaches for her weapon, but Tessa is faster, driving her shoulder into the woman's sternum. As they grapple, Eli scrambles free, hiding behind a crate. The woman is trained, her strikes precise. She lands a blow to Tessa's ribs that steals her breath. But Tessa has fought harder opponents. Hunger, poverty, fear. She blocks a second strike, twists the woman's arm until bone snaps, and delivers a final blow that leaves her opponent unconscious. Eli, she whispers, gathering him into her arms. I've got you, baby. I've got you. His tiny arms wrap around her neck, holding on with desperate strength. We're going home now, she promises, already moving toward the exit. 3 men appear, cutting off her escape. Behind them, flames spread from the fuel drums, casting everything in hellish light. Put the kid down, one orders, raising his gun. Tessa shifts Eli to her hip, shielding him with her body. She has no more tricks, no more weapons, just her body between her son and danger. The first gunshot makes her flinch, but it's not aimed at her. The man who threatened her crumples, a bullet hole between his eyes. The others turn, confused, as more shots ring out. Koo-hyo emerges from shadow, his gun extended, expression colder than death. His men pour into the warehouse from all directions. A coordinated assault that overwhelms the rival gang in seconds. Gunfire echoes. Men fall. The fire spreads, consuming wooden crates with hungry intensity. When Koo-hyo reaches Tessa, he stops short. His men form a protective circle around them, handling the remaining resistance. She stands amid bodies she put down herself, bloodied but unbroken. Eli clings to her, face buried against her neck. "You came for me," she says, voice raw from smoke. Koo-hyo holsters his weapon, his eyes taking in the fallen enemies around her. "You didn't need me," he replies softly. "You needed me to see who you are." Understanding passes between them, recognition of a shared nature, a shared strength. "The building's coming down, sir," Min-jae interrupts, appearing at Koo-hyo's side. Something in his expression flickers when he sees Tessa and the child. Surprise, perhaps, or disappointment. Koo-hyo's eyes narrow slightly before he turns away. "Get everyone out." The warehouse becomes an inferno as they retreat. Tessa carries Eli, refusing to relinquish him even as Koo-hyo guides them through corridors now engulfed in flames. They burst into rain-soaked night as the roof begins to collapse. Fire trucks wail in the distance, too late to save the building. In the safety of Koo-hyo's car, Tessa finally allows herself to tremble. Eli sleeps against her chest, exhausted but unharmed. Across from them, Koo-hyo watches with an expression she's never seen before, pride mingled with something deeper. Min-jae leans forward from the front seat. "Sir, where should I tell the driver to go?" Koo-hyo meets Tessa's eyes, the question unspoken between them. "Home," she says finally, the word an offering. "Take us home." As the car pulls away, the warehouse crumbles in spectacular ruin, flames reaching toward the sky like a funeral pyre for everything that came before. The council chamber falls silent as Koo-hyo enters. 7 men seated at a glossy black table, each controlling a different piece of his empire. Behind them stand their lieutenants, faces impassive but eyes watchful. Min-jae follows Koo-hyo, closing the heavy doors. The warehouse incident was 3 days ago. 3 days of tense negotiations and whispered conversations behind closed doors. "You've called us here," Elder Park speaks first, his voice weathered by decades in the shadows. "We assume it concerns the child." Koo-hyo takes his place at the head of the table. No emotion crosses his face. "You assume correctly. The Tigers have been dealt with," another council member says. "Their leadership eliminated." "But the damage is done," Elder Park continues. "Word has spread. Koo-hyo has a son, a weakness." The room temperature seems to drop at the word weakness. Koo-hyo's fingers tap once against the table surface, the only sign of his tension. "The woman and child compromise everything we've built," a younger councilman says. "They must be handled." Min-jae steps forward. "If I may, sir, we could arrange for them to disappear. New identities, far from Los Angeles." Koo-hyo turns slightly, studying his lieutenant. "You seem to have given this considerable thought, only thinking of the organization's stability, sir." "Curious," Koo-hyo says softly, "since you were the only one who knew where they were hidden." The room stills. Understanding ripples across faces as Min-jae's hand moves imperceptibly toward his weapon. "The Tigers knew exactly where to find them," Koo-hyo continues. "They had inside information, security codes, patrol schedules." Min-jae's smile tightens. "Many could have leaked such information." "Perhaps, but only one person made 3 calls to Tiger territory the night before the kidnapping." Koo-hyo rises, his movement drawing all eyes. From his jacket, he removes a small recorder. Min-jae's voice fills the room. "The boss has a son, a bastard with some waitress. Yes, I can tell you where. The price is position, not money. When Koo-hyo falls, I want his seat at the table." Min-jae lunges for the door, but 2 guards block his escape. There is no trial, no debate. Koo-hyo draws his gun and fires once. Min-jae crumples, betrayal dying in his eyes. "Clean that up," Koo-hyo says, holstering his weapon. He turns back to the council. Now, let's discuss the actual problem. Elder Park leans forward. The council has reached a decision. You must choose, Kuhyo, your empire or this family. There is no choice, Kuhyo says simply. A hint of relief crosses the elder's face. Then you'll sever ties with them. Wise decision. No, Kuhyo's voice remains calm. I choose them. Confusion ripples through the room. What exactly are you saying? Someone asks. I'm saying the council's services are no longer required. Disbelief transforms into outrage. Voices rise. Threats materialize. Kuhyo weathers it all with granite stillness. You would throw away generations of power? For what? A woman and a child? Elder Park's voice trembles with rage. For a life without blood, Kuhyo answers. For my son to grow up never knowing what his father was. He places a USB drive on the table. Every ledger, every account, every piece of evidence that could implicate any of you. His gaze sweeps the room. Take it and disappear. Start legitimate businesses. Retire. I don't care. But the coup syndicate ends tonight. The council chamber empties slowly, members departing with quiet fury or stunned silence. Elder Park is the last to leave. Your father would be ashamed, he says from the doorway. Kuhyo's expression doesn't change. My father died with blood on his hands and fear in his heart. I'm choosing a different path. Alone in the chamber, Kuhyo moves to his private office. Tessa waits there, Eli asleep on a leather sofa nearby. It's done? She asks. Almost. He unlocks a hidden panel, revealing a wall of hard drives, paper files, and digital keys to offshore accounts. The documented history of an empire built on suffering. Help me, he says simply. Together, they work in silence. Tessa shreds documents while Kuhyo wipes servers, corrupts data, burns physical ledgers in his fireplace. Evidence of 20 years of crime disappearing into ash. A notification chimes on his phone. Security camera feeds show vehicles approaching. Not just council members returning, but armed men surrounding the compound. They've chosen conflict, he says, unsurprised. We need to go. Tessa moves to gather Eli. There's an exit through the wine cellar. Tunnel leads to a garage 2 blocks away. He passes her keys and an envelope. Everything you need is inside. Her eyes narrow. You said we need to go. A gunshot echoes from somewhere in the building. Then another. I'll be right behind you, he promises. I have to finish this. She wants to argue, but Eli stirs on the couch, frightened by the noise. Survival instinct overrides everything else. 10 minutes, she says, then we leave without you. After they disappear through the hidden passage, Kuhyo retrieves a final item from his safe. A small explosive device, military grade, compact but powerful. The first of his former loyalists breaches his office door as he's setting the timer. Gunfire erupts. Kuhyo takes cover, returning fire with precision. Men fall. Glass shatters. Blood stains imported carpets. A bullet catches his shoulder. Another grazes his temple. Still, he fights. No longer for empire or power, but for time. Time for Tessa and Eli to escape. When only 2 minutes remain on the timer, he makes his move. Shooting out the large window behind his desk, he creates his exit. Glass rains onto the garden 30 feet below. His attackers close in, thinking him cornered. Kuhyo takes a final look at his empire. The art, the leather, the trappings of power bought with blood. He jumps as the first explosion rocks the building. From the safety of a hillside overlook, Tessa watches flames devour the mansion. Eli sleeps against her chest, unaware that his world has transformed again. The envelope Kuhyo gave her contains new identities, cash, and the deed to a small house in a quiet suburb. Black smoke billows into the night sky. News helicopters circle the inferno, capturing the fall of an empire for tomorrow's headlines. Among the ruins, firefighters will eventually find a body, burned beyond recognition, but wearing Kuhyo's watch and ring. He died to give us a life. Tessa whispers to her sleeping son, tears tracking silently down her face. As she turns to leave, headlights approach along the narrow overlook road. A car stops. The driver's door opens. A figure emerges, silhouetted against the distant flames. Spring arrives in whispers rather than declarations. Cherry blossoms drift across lawns in the quiet suburb where Tessa now lives. The modest bungalow with its fenced yard and creaking porch swing bears no resemblance to her previous apartments. 4 months since the fire. 4 months of nightmares and half-glances over her shoulder. 4 months of building something like peace from the ashes of what came before. Eli thrives in this new life. At 10 months old, he crawls with determined speed, pulls himself up on furniture, babbles with increasing complexity. His room has clouds painted on the ceiling and a mobile of stars that Tessa crafted herself. She works at Sunshine Cafe, 3 blocks from home. The owner, an elderly Korean woman named Mrs. Park, asked no questions about Tessa's past. She simply showed up one morning, accepted Tessa's application, and started teaching her to make proper bulgogi. This morning, like most mornings, sunshine streams through the cafe windows as Tessa wipes down tables. The breakfast rush has ended. The lunch crowd hasn't yet arrived. Mrs. Park kneads dough in the kitchen while humming a folk song. Eli plays in his playpen near the register, fascinated by wooden blocks. The bell above the door chimes. "Be right with you," Tessa calls, her back to the entrance. When she turns, the cleaning cloth slips from her fingers. He stands in the doorway, sunlight haloing his silhouette. No suit, no guards, no aura of dangerous power. Just jeans and a plain gray t-shirt, hands bearing the honest stains of motor oil instead of blood. His hair is longer, softening the sharp lines of his face. Kuhyo, alive, transformed, impossible. "Hello," he says simply. Her throat constricts around words that refuse to form. Eli breaks the silence, squealing at the familiar face and reaching upward from his playpen. "I opened a garage," Kuhyo continues, his voice lacking its former commanding edge. 3 streets over. Jin's auto repair." "Jin?" she finally manages. "My mother's family name, before my father took her." Tessa steadies herself against a table. They found a body. A loyal man who died of cancer 2 days earlier. His family received enough money to live comfortably for generations. "How did you find us?" His lips curve slightly. "The deed was in your name. I wanted you to truly own it, not just borrow a life I created." Mrs. Park emerges from the kitchen, wiping flour from her hands. She studies Kuhyo with narrow eyes. "This the father?" she asks Tessa bluntly. Tessa nods, unable to lie to this woman who's shown her nothing but kindness. Mrs. Park huffs. "About time." She points to a corner table. "Sit, talk, I'll watch the baby." They obey like chastened children, settling across from each other by the window. Sunlight falls between them, dust motes dancing in golden beams. "Everyone believes you're dead," Tessa says. "Everyone who matters knows I'm alive." His eyes find hers. Just one person. "What happened that night?" "I jumped from the office to the garden. The explosion covered my escape through the grounds. I had prepared for the possibility." His hand rests on the table between them, close enough to touch but not reaching. A scar she doesn't recognize wraps around his wrist. "Are you safe?" she asks. "Truly safe?" The empire is gone, dismantled. The council members scattered to legitimate businesses or retirement. Some tried to maintain power, but without the ledgers, without the connections, he shrugs. Paper tigers. And Jin's auto repair? Something like contentment softens his expression. "I always liked working with my hands. Before my father decided my hands should hold guns instead of wrenches." From across the room, Eli babbles excitedly. Mrs. Park bounces him on her hip, pointing in their direction and whispering Korean words in his ear. "He's grown," Kuhyo says softly. "Children do that." Has he hesitates. "Has he asked about his father?" Tessa's eyes fill unexpectedly. He's too young, but he keeps a picture of you by his crib, the one from the news, after the fire. I tell him stories sometimes. Kuhyo's composure breaks slightly. What stories? That his father was brave, that he gave up everything to keep us safe. Silence stretches between them, filled with unsaid words. I don't expect forgiveness, he finally says. Or trust. I only want a chance to know him, to be someone he doesn't have to hide. 3 weeks later, Sunshine Cafe hums with Sunday morning customers. Tessa moves between tables, pouring coffee, delivering plates of hotteok and fresh fruit. Outside, cherry blossoms carpet the sidewalk like pink snow. In the corner booth, Kuhyo, now simply Jin, drinks tea while reading the newspaper. No bodyguards hover nearby. No gun rests beneath his jacket. Just a man enjoying a peaceful morning. The front door opens, admitting Mrs. Park with Eli in her arms. He squirms to be put down, his little legs sturdy now as he takes wobbling steps across the cafe floor. His eyes light up when he spots Jin. With determined focus, he navigates between tables, customers smiling as he passes. Jin sets down his newspaper, attention completely captured by the approaching child. When Eli reaches him, tiny hands grasp his knees for balance. Then, a word that changes everything. Appa, Eli says clearly, reaching upward. The cafe seems to still. Tessa freezes mid-pour, coffee momentarily forgotten. Jin's face transforms with wonder as he lifts his son high, sunlight catching in Eli's dark hair and the matching birthmark above both their eyes. Laughter, his son's, his own, fills the space once occupied by violence and fear. As Jin settles Eli on his lap, his eyes find Tessa across the room. Something passes between them. Forgiveness, perhaps, or the beginning of it. Sunlight streams through the cafe windows, breaking into prismatic patterns across their table. This time, when the glass broke, it was only sunlight.